All right, guys, welcome to another live stream. In today's live stream, we're going to talk about the misconception of the saying "you have time." Now, I see this thrown around all the time, specifically for people that are in their 20s, in their early 20s, in their teens, and maybe even into I've seen it in their late 20s being said, and even for people in their 30s, right? And I think we need to get into the misconception of you have time. Like, we really need to get deep into what that actually means, because it's almost like a comforting mechanism for a person that's really young. And I think if you're not careful, you could fall very behind because you think, quote unquote, you have time and not really get anything done. So let me get into an example of what I'm talking about so you can see this picture clearly. So let's say let's say you have two people, right? Let's say you have a person that's 24. Let's say you have a person that's 18. So you have these two people, one that's 18, one that's 24. And the goal, the financial goal, because it's a financial channel, so we're going to put a financial goal at age 30 and say these two people want to reach 100K at age 30, right? They either want to save up to it, they want to invest in something that's going to get them to that 100K. They're going to do something to get them to that 100K. So obviously the person that is 18 has 6 more years than the person that's 24, right? They have, quote unquote, more time. And the person that's 24 only has 6 years. So the person that's 18 has 12 in total to get to 30. And then the person that is 24 has 6 years, right? So double amount of time for the person that's 18. And if that person is told at 18, you have time, don't worry about that financial goal, and they may just waste those first 6 years not doing anything, and they didn't really have time. So for me, time is something that is used. So if you use your time wisely, I would say, okay, you have time, right? So if that person that was 18 started at 18 to build a plan to save up to 100K, then I would say, okay, they had time, right? Or they had time and they used it wisely. Like, if that person was told at 18, okay, you have time, and they didn't really start anything and they didn't do anything to get to that 100K, to me, yeah, they had time, but they did nothing with it. And right, they're in that same place that the person that is 24. So we need to be careful when we say, okay, this person has the time to get a certain thing done. We really need to quantify and qualify the actions that are taken within that time frame, or if that person has even started, right? So you can see this for most folks. Like, let's say at a point in time, that person that's 18 and they get the comforting statement, oh, you have time. Let's say they have time to get a trade, right? But let's say they haven't even come up with ideas of what trade they want to begin. So, right, like, you haven't even started the process. For me, you have to start the process to claim a person has time. If a person's just sitting there not doing anything, they don't have they have time, but it's like time that's not there because they're not doing anything with that time. In order for you to like take advantage of the time that you have, you need to be working to get whatever you want to get done as soon as somebody's claiming that you have all the time in the world. So yeah, I just want to point that out because I think the younger generation is told this a lot, specifically for, like, you'll hear it from people maybe that are in their late 30s or early 40s that wish, and this is like the ironic thing about it, right? I think usually the person that's saying it to the person that's maybe like in their teens, they wish they were that age again so they can start, right? So that's the mind frame that they're coming from when they're giving out this comforting statement of you have time. So they're coming from the mind state, oh, this person's 18, I'm 40, and now I'm looking back at my life and I'm saying, okay, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And how that translate to like kind of the advice that the person's giving to the person that's 18 is that, oh, you have time. But in reality, they should be saying, man, you're 18. I wish I was 18 so I could have started early. I think that's what the people want to say, but it almost just translates wrong to where it's like, okay, you tell an 18-year-old you have time, and it goes back to playing video games. And the crazy thing is now, like 18-year-olds, early 20-year-olds are killing it right now. So the excuse, because that's an excuse that that not only that the older folks give to the younger folks, but that's the excuse that the younger folks feed into. So, okay, they feed into the fact that they have time and they're not doing anything. But I think, like, in today's age, you can't really, like, it's not an excuse, because now you have people 15, 16, 17 making millions. And let's not even talk about millions, making, 10 to 20 grand a month, or maybe even 10 to 20 grand a year, right? For a 15 to 16-year-old to be doing that, it's pretty impressive. So you need to, right? So this is like, it's not an excuse anymore to say, okay, I have time, compared to what? And right, so if you say, so let's break it down. If you want to say you have time, first you have to have a plan, right? You have to have a plan and say, okay, I have time, but I'm gonna start today and make the time that I have. The only reason why, like, you have time makes sense, or like has value, is because you get to start today. If you're not starting today, you can't use the excuse that you don't have time. So, yeah. So for the people that are in their earlier years, their teens, their early 20s, I would say if somebody tells you that you have time, just think about it a little bit differently. Just take it as they're probably looking at your age and they're saying, wow, at this point in my life, I'm a little bit older and I wish I would have done this. And what they're trying to tell you is start now, so that way you're not looking back later and saying, oh, I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have did, whatever your goals are. You you want to start those early, especially if you can identify them early in the game. Some people, it takes a little longer for them to find out what they want to do to make money, but if you could start that early, you'll put yourself ahead of most people, because most people take a while to figure out what you want to do. But again, also for that as well, I don't think you should be wasting time figuring out what you want to do. I think in the meantime, you should, even if you don't know what you want to do, if there's not really a clear path to get to where you want to go, at least do something, right? Like, and you got to be careful with that too. Like, it's like, okay, let's say you tell an 18-year-old that doesn't know what they want to do, like, at least get a job or a part-time job. You got to be careful with that too, because once somebody starts making money at like an earlier age, they kind of get they get comfortable in that position, and then they don't want to do anything else, right? Now, if you move up in that position, you become CEO of the company, great, but how many people do that? Most people sit in that part-time job, they get comfortable, and they don't move on from that. So you need to figure out what you want to do early. I would say try to at least, have some ideas of what you want to do and try to start that thing early. And if you don't know what you want to do, at least do something in the meantime as you figure that thing out, right? That thing should be the goal, right? Your purpose should be the goal, and then you do your little thing on the side until you get to that goal. It's not going to be the finish line, but it's just something to keep the body moving, make some money, and just not stay on standstill, right? So yeah. That's what I wanted to say about the misconception of you don't have time. I think we hear it all the time, no pun intended, but people always say it, and I'm like, and the reason why I'm saying it is because I recently turned 30, and I'm looking back in my earlier years, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have did that, and that's how I would translate that to the younger person. I wouldn't say, oh, you like, I'm not gonna say, oh, you have time, right? So, yeah, just make sure you're utilizing your earlier years. Younger folks now are killing it, so right now there's really no excuse. And most people would say, "Oh, well, that's not everybody. Like everybody can't make all that money." Like I said, we're not talking about millions. Yes, there's teens that are making millions of dollars, but what if you don't make millions? What if you could make 30 to 40K when you're 18? That's a pretty good start. I think that's feasible for most people. So it's not that, I don't think it'll be that complicated for you to figure out. Maybe millions, yes, that would be hard. That'd be hard for anybody, but maybe you're making 30 to 50,000 a year when you're 18, 19. Maybe you could figure that out, right? Maybe you just lower the bar a little bit, not too much to where it's not a hard goal. Like your goal should be at least something worth working towards, because if it's not worth working towards, you're not going to put in the work. But, not nothing that's over the top where, you're looking at the goal and you're like, oh, I won't be able to do this. So, yeah, that's my take. That's my take on you have time. All right. Don't believe the hype. Use every day to your advantage. Use every day to get where you want to get to. And, don't let a day, I'm not saying you can't have fun, but, don't waste those early years just doing nothing. All right. So that's my rant on you have time. Now, I want to talk about, I saw an article on payments.com that I wanted to bring up, and it's titled, "Just 1/10 of savings are stored in financial assets." So, most folks save their money, but they don't invest in anything, and it could get real dangerous if you wait to invest that money. So let's say if you're a person that never saved up to $10,000 before, and you have that $10,000 sitting in the bank, it could be a scary thing to take all that money and invest it, because you took that long to save it. Maybe you took 2-3 years to save this up, and you're like, I'm not touching this money. I'm not trying to invest it. And basically what this article is saying is that 10% of people's, just 1/10 of savings are stored in finance. So a tenth of your savings is stored in financial assets. So if a person had 10,000 saved up, they are only putting 1,000 away. And I think if you're in your earlier years, like your teens and your earlier 20s, you should be investing most of your money. Now, I'm not saying go ahead and take all that money and put it in a penny stock, or put it in a meme coin, or put it in, go to the casino and gamble it all. I'm not saying all of that. I'm saying do good research and figure out where you could put this money in a place where it's going to grow. There's look at, if you're scared, at least do like the ETFs, mutual funds that are selected by quality firms, quality companies like a Vanguard, a Fidelity, a Charles Schwab, and right, so make sure that you're not just saving your money. And I could read a little bit of this just to see what they're talking about. So it says savings by financial assets. It says the study reports that aggregate savings in the U.S. amounted to an average of nearly $11,200 per individual. So is that yearly, or reports that aggregate savings amounted to an average? Okay, so the average savings amount for the individual is $11,200 in September 2023, an amount that has declined by roughly 2% year over year after netting out the inflation effect. When it comes to consumer preferences on how to allocate these savings, the average consumer held 23% stores in consumer held 23% stores in education or retirement funds. The largest of all financial assets considered 11% in stocks or bonds and 2% in cryptocurrency. The remaining amount was allocated to a mix of forms that include checking accounts, business investments, and other forms of financial assets. Um, so it says only a tenth. Okay, so I guess that percentage is off of another percentage, but it looks like, people are that tenth is divided up into stocks, cryptocurrency, bonds, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's good that the money at least is saved. But again, I think this is off a population of people. I'm not sure what the population of people is for this thing, but on average, most people have $1,000 saved. So this might be talking about a different population of people. But again, for people that do have the money to invest, you should be investing that money, right? You don't have to go crazy and invest, like I said, in these crazy things where you're risking all of your money. But at least, look at a good ETF, maybe from Vanguard or Fidelity, and put your money in that. So at least you're getting the market rate each year. The market, on average, every 10 years provides a 6 to 7% return. So you could get that with that average 11, where it says $11,200 per individual. So, that's 600 bucks a year, opposed to keeping it in a savings account where you're only going to get maybe $5 to $10 a year, or maybe $20 a year, right? Like, if you had it now, obviously you're going to have volatility in that ETF, right? You're going to have but as long as you're not pulling it out on a consistent basis, then you should be okay to keep it in there, right? Because you're saving it anyway. It's locked up in the savings account. Most people just keep it in there for an emergency. So, I think a good diverse ETF could, like, if it's liquid enough so you could pull it out in case of emergency, but then also you're getting the upside of the 6 to 7% that the market provides. So, saving is good, but you need to go beyond saving. Saving will not save you, right? Unless you're making a lot of money, unless you're just making millions of dollars a year. But even still, like, that's not the best use of your money. If you're making all that money and you're not even investing it, you're just saving it. So yeah, unless you're making like hundreds or tens of millions of bucks, where saving is the only thing you need to do. But again, at that point, that money, if not used right, it will run out. So it's good to learn some basic stuff about investing. But yeah, I saw this article. It's from payment.com. Says, again, the title is "Just 1/10 of savings are stored in financial assets." So most people are not investing. All right. So let's see. All right. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about. So the Fed met today, and it looks like they're going to keep interest rates where they're at, and it looks like they insinuated that rates will be coming down in the next 2 to 3 months. So we'll see if they drop it a quarter or a whole percentage point, but that's probably going to be the start of the bull market. It's going to initiate price increases for all asset classes, crypto, stock market. The crypto market already has good catalysts coming up. So, I mean, the spot ETFs, the potential Ethereum ETFs to come, the Bitcoin halving, all this money flowing into, or the supply getting cut in the crypto space, and then money flowing in. It's going to be a bullish time. So I recommend that you guys keep up with what the Fed is doing, whether they're going to increase or keep. I mean, they're going to decrease rates for sure. But keep up with that and pay attention to what the Fed is doing, because it's very important. It does affect the assets that you're invested in, if you're invested, and it's something to watch, right? It's almost like watching the indexes, the major indexes, if you're in the stock market. For real estate, like watching home prices, keeping up with that. It doesn't have to be an hour a day, but at least 5 to 10 minutes just to see what's going on with the market, so that way you can make the best informed decision on your investments. So yeah, that's it for today. That's what I wanted to talk about. Make sure, if you're a young person and somebody tells you you have time, make sure that you really think about what that actually means and you take advantage of your younger years. And also, if you have money saved, make sure you are investing it. Make sure you take some time to figure out where you can put that money to make a better return than what your bank is going to give you. And then 3, make sure you keep up with the Fed and what they do to the rates. But yeah, that's it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.